Good morning, everyone. Okay, I know that the coffee is just kicking in, but let's try it again. Good morning. Much better, thank you. All right, so today we'll be talking about the Luna troubleshooting tools and a few third-party tools which will help you resolve issues and troubleshoot issues and make your life much easier. And before we start, I would like to go with a quick introduction. I am Sharath Rao. I am a solutions architect lead. I work for the European region. I work on the web and the media product suite. So it's nice to be here. Vlad?
Hi everyone. I'm Vladimir from our Tokyo office, and I'm working for Akamai 6 years. I'm part of Akamai technical support team and doing product support for VDX solutions.
Hello everyone, and welcome from my side as well. I'm Blaž Viziak. I'm a technical support engineer in EMEA, and I work in media side.
All right, thank you. So what are we going to talk today? Just to hide you, so what are we doing that? I just want to see a raise of hands for those who have worked with the Akamai tech support and pickup calls. Just a raise of hands. All right, great. So do you believe that if you have the access and the right knowledge to the right tools at the right point of time, do you think that it would make your life easier? Yeah? So that's exactly what we're going to help you with today. So we are going to start with the Luna troubleshooting tools that you all have access to. In that, we'll be covering the network debugging tools and the service debugging tools. And this is specific to the web application issues. And then we'll talk about the Akamai Pragma headers and how that can help, how important that is. We'll then talk about a few third-party troubleshooting tools which are at your disposal, and you can surely use them as well. We'll then cover a few use cases where you can actually go ahead and use these tools that you have, right? So to start with, we'll just see where you can get to these tools in the first place. So once you go to the Luna Control Center, you can access the support link that you see here on the top right. So once you click on that, you will be able to see these two sections. So once you click on the more tools, this will lead you to the network debugging tools and the service debugging tools, right? So what we'll be covering today are basically these two. Now let's start with the network debugging tools, all right? So of course these tools are there to help you in as the first step for the resolution. And of course, even if you need the support after that, you still can collect the data that you have got from these tools and call up the architect support. And that is going to help you resolve the issues much, much faster. All right? So let's look at the first tool. So this is the get user IP details. All right? So say your customer or your end user is facing an issue with an Akamai's URL or a host name, and you don't know what's happening, and you want to capture your end user's IP details, the client IP details, the DNS server IP details. It can be the Akamai Edge server to which they are trying to connect. So to get this kind of information, so what we need to do is to enter the username of the end user and to enter the URL where they are trying to access, and it's giving the problems. And then once we click on submit, we will be getting this one-time unique URL, which you can then pass this over to the customer. And once they hit this URL, the information is coming to our servers, and that can be seen in the next tool. And that exactly is the view user IP details tool. So in this view user IP details tool, once the customer has clicked on the unique URL, it pops up here, and then once you click on view details, it shows you the IP details of the end user. So it tells you what is the client IP, it tells you what is the DNS server to which he or she connected, it tells you the Akamai server IP details as well. It also gives you where that IP is. So with this information, the first step of troubleshooting has already started. Up next, we got to know the IP. Now it's important to check if it's an Akamai IP or not, right? And especially this useful when you resolve a host name, and you want to know if it is resolving to an Akamai IP or not. So you want to be sure that the traffic is coming on Akamai or not. So for that, you can just pick up the IP. You can key in the box here, and then once you click on submit, it tells you if it's an Akamai IP or not. Okay, so if it is not, it just tells you it is not an Akamai IP. So with these details, you are sure that yes, the traffic is landing on the Akamai servers. Next, this is an extremely important tool. This is a locate IP tool. So with this information, you will be knowing the exact details of the IP address. Where is it? The whole details about the city, about the country, much more details. Of course, if it is not an Akamai IP as well, it still shows you the details of the IP address. Okay? And even if you're not able to understand many of these details, you still can pass this data to the Akamai technical support, and they will be able to understand and help you out with more support. So the next tool is the get domain details tool, or the dig tool. So what this does is, you want to know from a particular location in the world, what is the resolution like, right? So all that you need to do is to add the host name or the domain name in here, and you need to choose the location from which you want to resolve this particular host name. So once you do that, and once you click on submit, it shows you the resolution of that particular host name. So in fact, where is this used? If you have a product like GTM, where you have a geo-specific rules getting applied for the host name. If you choose the location and then if you resolve, you should be seeing different results and different IPs. Like for example, if you have a rule such as the end users in the US have to go to the origin directly, in that case, if you resolve from San Jose, it gives you the origin IP, right? But if you want the non-states users to actually resolve this host name and for them to use the Akamai, if you resolve from a non-states place, it then gives you an Akamai IP, right? So in that way, we are able to test and troubleshoot the GTM level issues as well. Okay, so I would just like to take a pause here to check if there are any questions.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
It's probably too basic. Way back when you entered client, what client username is that? Who was that you talking about?
So for the first tool you were talking about?
Yeah, the very first one.
Yeah, so it can be your customer where they can be reporting an issue and they are not able to access the site or a URL, and they just call up your support and they might tell you, or even your QA person, right? So your QA person might be facing some issues and they might not be able to access the URL. In that case, in order to capture the IP details, that is where we use this.
But username from what?
It's just a name. It's a name.
Right. Yeah, and in fact, like for example, the issues can be reported from multiple people. In that case, to track each of their IP details, that is where we use the name to distinguish among the users.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes.
Let's say that we have two sites.
Okay.
One site is on Akamai and the other site is not on Akamai.
Okay.
And we are seeing a lot of traffic on one of the sites which is not on Akamai. We are seeing a lot of spamming happening there.
Okay.
Can we still use the locate any IP application to find that IP on that other site and kind of use that from there that is coming?
Yes, yes. So if it is a non-Akamai IP as well, you still can get to see the details, but it won't be as detailed as the Akamai IP details, but it surely tells you from where it is. Thank you. Yes, sir.
On the IP locator, there's a little bit of information from there.
In the IP locator, let me just, okay, this one. The throughput, right? So in fact, this particular data will be coming from our region data or from our servers, in fact, and this is specific to the Akamai server IPs. All right, thank you. So up next, we have a tool called as the test network connectivity. So this performs the MTR trace route from an Akamai server to IP or a host name. So like you see here, we have the destination IP or the domain name to which you want to test the network connectivity, right? So you choose the location from which you want to test, and you click on submit. It gives you the hops it took, it gives you the routing, it gives you the loss percentage, it gives you a lot of information about the route it took. In fact, where we can use this is to check the connectivity between an Akamai server to the end user IP or from the Akamai server to the origin. So in that way, if there are any issues on the network, you will be able to check it out here. And if you're facing any performance issues based on the connectivity, this is the tool that you need to use. Right, right. So in fact, this is the real-time data at that very moment of time. But yeah, so in fact, we'll be talking about the third-party tools as well, where we talk about the trace route and other stuff. So in fact, this is specific to the Akamai server and the other IP connectivity. Yeah, yes, sir.
Does this play nice if we have a site shield, like you'll know to choose the right IP in that map that you have?
In fact, it's because we key in the IP, it doesn't actually check the config and the details about the product. It just hits and just try to establish a connection. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
So this tool right here is where I see a lot of packet loss when I do tapping.
Uh-huh.
At this point, do I contact Akamai support, or where do I go from that point?
Right. So if you are able to see the packet loss after multiple attempts, and if you're still seeing a lot of packet loss based on a specific hop or a specific data, you still can contact the Akamai support and provide the data that you have seen. And they will be surely able to see the edge server IP or the connecting hop, and they will be able to get back to you with more details.
Okay, because I've seen this before, and I had expected show route to take the optimized route.
Okay.
I'm seeing a lot of packet loss.
That's right, that's right. And in fact, with the data that you see, it already shows the Akamai edge server IP over here. And with that, in fact, and with the details from the country and the Akamai edge server IP, the Akamai technical support will surely be able to help you out. All right. So, okay, so I think that's it from my side. I will hand it over to Vlad.
Thank you very much, Saraj. Yeah, hello everyone, once again. In this section, I'm going to talk about service debugging tools. This is different sort of tools which allow you to check your Akamai services. So first tool we are going to talk about is translating Akamai's URL. So this tool, as an input, takes URL or host name, and for that particular host name, provide origin server hostname, CP code, and TTL. We highly recommend to use here exact URL, because it depends on URL, origin host name, and CP code could be different. And if you provide just only host name, you would see default origin server host name as the output. You also can download results. The next tool is translate error string. I think that most of you saw this like reference number many times. So this tool, which helps you to translate to convert this error string into meaningful information. So you can understand why does the error happening, what edge server was responded to end user, what was user agent, what was client IP address, and any other information. So for example, here's a summary, which provides you kind of like an overview into the like what was HTTP response code, what was a reason for failure, client IP, and some other information. Also like URL. In the error log tab, you can see this is almost raw logs. This is almost the same logs we could see on the edge server. So this is extremely helpful for any kind of troubleshooting. So you can see here like client IP, what was ARL, error message, and stuff like that. So next tool is request content URL. We also call it curl, client for URLs. This is a pretty much simple tool which allow you to send HTTP request from any particular location or H server to your URL. For example, if you want to test geoblock from US or from China, from Japan, from any different locations, this is the tool you're going to use. And you also can specify user agent you want. Okay, is it clear?
What does the output look like? Are you going to show us the output?
Output is like this, yes.
Oh.
Excuse me. Yeah, so in the output you just see HTTP response headers and response body. Response body did not appear on this page, so in order to see response body, you need to download results. So to the next tool.
Can you set headers?
Sorry?
Can you set headers as well, or is it just the
No, this is just client. The next tool could be also extremely useful for you. This is a view logs tool. This tool allows you to download logs from any particular Edge server. So in order to use this tool, you need to specify Edge server IP, select which type of logs you want to see. It is R line or F line. I will talk about this later. You specify a time frame for which you wanted to get logs, maximum number of log lines. The maximum number of log lines you can download. By default is 200, but maximum number of log lines this tool can get from an Edge server is 1,000. And here is kind of like search conditions. So as a search condition, you can use CP code, user agent, ARL, request ID, and a couple of other conditions. In particular, I would like to emphasize request ID. So for example, if you, I'll get back here. So request ID should be, it just didn't fit to the screen. Request ID appear in these logs. Request ID is unique string which assign it to every end user request. So it is very easy to grab logs using request ID because it is unique and for every request it is different. So, and output will be look like this. So this is the log format, and logs corresponding to the to your search conditions.
Is there a way to specify if you want like 10 logs before this and 10 logs after that, or is it just that one?
No,
10,
no,
mix?
no. You can download only logs which match your search conditions.
Okay.
Here, yes. And there is a query which allow you to create end rule. So you want to, for example, like grab by CP code and plus request ID or client IP. Okay. Yes. And I wanted to talk. Oh, excuse me. Sorry. Yeah, it is the same search conditions here.
Right, but we can narrow it down to something we're looking for or CP code or an area.
Yes, CP code, for example, client IP address, user agent, ARL, or request ID.
Okay. Do you have any examples of queries you set in there for parameters?
No, we do not have any sample at the moment. Yeah, but we can show that later after the session. Okay. So,
Sorry.
oops, sorry.
What does the duration before end time mean?
Duration, so it is, there is end time. And you, for example, want to take like logs for 6 hours before the end time. Maximum time frame here is 6 hours.
Okay.
6 hours from?
From what though?
From this
From that
end date, yes.
So you're only checking 200 log lines from 525 minus 30.
Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
exactly.
All right.
HRIP? Yes. I didn't get it. Yes, HRIP you can get, for example, you've got a reference number from customer. You did translate Akamai's URL and you see ghost IP here. This is the Edge server IP you would use as an input here.
Ghost IP again is what?
Is Ghost IP and Edge server IP is the same thing.
Okay.
Yes.
That's what they call the edge server, ghost server.
Ghost refers to the edge.
Yes.
Show on your own log.
Excuse me?
It's shown on your own log,
Yes.
not the full log.
No. Okay. So debug URL. This is kind of like advanced version of curl command we were talking about before. For example, you've got a reference number from customer. You did translate it to meaningful output. You've got an idea about what was user agent, what was client IP, what was the URL request. And you want to replicate the problem because you're not sure if it is still happening or not. And this is the tool you're going to use for that purpose. So you put an URL here. You already know Edge server IP, so you put it here. And you can add headers of your choice. For example, I don't know, if there's a mobile application which sends extra request headers to site, you can specify those headers here too. And as a result, you can get comprehensive information about DNS information. So this is exactly name resolution output of this host name. HTTP response. HTTP response tab provides basic information about what Edge server was used for request, what was origin server host name and origin server IP. And also you can get response headers. And what is most important, you can, okay, we didn't show it here. And what is most important, you can see logs, exactly in the same format as we saw it on this page. So finally, you were able to replicate the problem. You checked what was the error string. And from that point, you have kind of like two passes. If it is problem was with your website, you escalate it to internal team. If it is problem with Akamai or you're not sure, you still come into Akamai with this information. And having this information, you can do troubleshooting very quickly.
Maybe dumb question, but URL there, you've got edge.akamai.com, but that is where you put in like customer
Yes.
domain name.
Yes.
And
Yes.
you're sending from that edge server IP
Yes.
to that to see. Okay.
Yes.
So
Yep.
if you discover that this is an Akamai needed assistance, do we still call, or is there some automation here that will be able to get all of this data to Akamai without having to reprocess it?
Yes, you just follow a regular process of escalating to Akamai. So you open ticket or call to Akamai technical support.
But there's,
Yes, there is no button to. Yes, there is no.
there's a button, open support case. You don't see it on the screen, but there is a button.
Yeah,
that copies
Yes.
all the information.
but to provide to the technical support, you just download the results and copy paste the ticket.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
There is a button.
You
that
can
says
create a
submit.
ticket from there, but you still need to save all this detail down.
Oh, okay.
And stick it into the ticket
Oh, okay.
that you submit.
Okay.
Yes,
So
please.
create a ticket doesn't automatically do all that. Okay.
Yes, we do have log delivery service. So you can specify CP codes. You can specify a log delivery frequency. You can specify where you want to send those logs. But in fact, those logs are more detailed than the logs you can see here. It is also possible if you open a ticket and ask for a kind of like customized log format, you can do that. But by default, this tool provides you much more detailed logs than you can get using log delivery service.
These are more detailed?
Yes. And yeah, and you also need to remember that these logs are coming directly from Edge server, and Edge server logs are rotated roughly about like every 48 hours. So if you, for example, want to troubleshoot an issue which happened 1 week ago, you probably wouldn't be able to get those logs from Edge server because they're already gone.
And they don't go anywhere else?
Yes, yes.
A general question regarding whatever we have shown so far. So all the test scenarios or logs that we are collecting are from client edge to the origin. A lot of times when we see issues,
Yes, curl command should help you to do that.
So how can we go directly to the origin?
You specify origin IP here. Edge server, I'm not sure. Do you remember?
Yeah, I will explain in the third-party tools.
Yeah.
In a minute.
Well, yeah, I would better use like a command line tool rather than this one. So next tool is get error statistics. This is a tool which allow you to see kind of like a big picture of how your Akamai service operate in real time. For example, you've got an request from your customer. So, and you've got your error string. You did translate error, but it is just one request. You don't know how does like other end users do. And this is a tool you can use in order to see like kind of like real-time statistic data. How many error responses you have, how many like successful status codes you have for a CP code or for a particular host name. So, and if, for example, you do not see much errors here, then you can make a decision that this is most probably like error which happened to that particular user only. And you also need to keep in mind that we call it real time, but there is a small delay, about like 10-15 minutes before data appear here.
So how long is that? You say it's real time, but how big of a window are we looking at?
The sampling time here about like 2 or 5 minutes.
Okay, so instead of using the URL status reports under monitoring, which is
Yes, yes, yes,
if I want for the last 2 or 3 minutes, I'll have to.
yes, yes, exactly.
Okay.
So next topic we are going to discuss is Akamai Pragma headers. Akamai Pragma headers is a very powerful thing. And that is what we want all our customers use. Because once you send Akamai Pragma headers as a part of your HTTP request, you can get a lot of useful information which will help you and help us to troubleshoot any problem. Because as a response, you can see like what edge servers were passed, what edge servers were used for serving a request, what was a request ID, and any other different information. For example, like did we hit the cache or not? And on this slide, you can see a sample curl command. This is a Linux command. Command tool. So this is a sample how you can inject Akamai Pragma headers into the request headers. And there are many different ways you can do that. You can use like Chrome, Firefox extension. You can use Charles or Fiddler. I mean, Charles and Fiddler, for those who is not familiar, it is a HTTP proxy. So there are many different ways you can do that, and we highly encourage you to do so. So, and on this slide, you can see a table. This is not a full list. This is just an example for full list. You can visit Akamai community or Akamai community or a knowledge base. So this is an example of request header and what you will get in response and what kind of data you can expect in the response headers. And brief description about what does it mean. For example, if you append this header, you would get an idea about was it TCP hit or TCP miss, what edge server responded on the request. You also can get an idea whether object is cacheable or not. And for example, you can get like cache key.
Is there somewhere that describes some of these responses that you're likely to see? I mean, TCP miss, you can kind of guess what that means, but
yes, yes. So on the there are multiple different places you can get the information from. So first place, for example, I would recommend is Akamai community. Yes. You have a lot of useful information on Akamai community. Also, there is a help page on the tools page, so it is not shown here. So there is like question mark on the right upper corner, and you can get a help page with all error messages, with all descriptions for every field on the page. Yes. Yes, yes, on Akamai community, or I think that, yes, there should be also knowledge base article for that. Yeah. Just so as a search condition, you use Akamai program headers, and you would get a lot of information. Anyone else? Yes. I'm sorry, I didn't get the question.
So if I have a rule that's set up for bypass cache,
Yes.
but there's another rule that's also setting a one-day cache.
Yep.
So a specific HTML file is going to be set for 1 day, but I'm bypassing it because of whatever rule it is, maybe an IP rule that says that my IP bypasses. Is there a header that will show me that I'm bypassing it?
No, you would, okay, if you bypass cache, you mean you set object to no store, for example? Yes, you would see the information here, but in the cache key, you would, it highly depends on your configuration. So if, for example, TTL rule was applied before you set up, before the place where you set up bypass cache rule, you will still see TTL here. Yes. Yes. Yes.
So if you do bypass, then you should get X check cacheable as
No. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. The reason why you still do see TTL here is because we apply metadata from top to bottom. And if TTL was applied at the very beginning, because we construct a cache key at the very beginning, and everything you see here is just coming from metadata. And the last slide is also 2 headers. So this one will show you different variables which were applied to the request. And the last one is Akamai request ID. So for example, if you made a request from command line or from any other application using Akamai program headers, and you've got this request ID, you can use a ViewGrep tool in order to get your logs easily. Thank you. Over to you, Blaž.
Okay. So I'll be, as I said, I will be talking about the third-party troubleshooting tools. There are a couple of them at your disposal. It's a community-wide. It's not specific to Akamai. And first, I will talk about the network debugging tools. So we already discussed a bit about the MTR from Luna side. These tools are to be run from your personal computer, or I don't know, your origin. So the first 2 are Linux command tools. So we have MTR, which means my traceroute, and then we have the traceroute. And the Windows one is traceRT. They all work in a similar fashion with ICMP packets being sent to the destination. What I would like to point out is that if you see a loss in between the source and the destination, but no loss at the destination, it just means that the routers on the path are giving it lower priority, so they respond slower to the requests. Since ICMP is not like a real traffic, it's more of a testing, right? And it's the same with the latency. So we can see different latencies, and you can have multiple options. So here we have report, show only IPs and wide mode, but you can check the man page, the manual, and choose different options to observe. So here I would like to say that it's very useful that you can run these from your computer towards Akamai, and then with the Luna tool you can do the reverse and see how the path goes, because of the routing the path can be different on the way there and on the way back. Any questions about this? Okay. The second tool is curl that we've seen also in Luna, but here is just to be run from your local computer. So here, for an example, we use the option minus capital I, which means that we are sending the HTTP method request instead of the GET request. And I would like to point out that a response to the GET and HEAD request can be different depending on the configuration, either on Akamai property or on the origin. So here we also see, so the head, what is a head request is just that the response only has the headers without the body. And then the second tool is dig, which means domain information grabber that we've seen before as well. So why would you use this one instead of the Luna one? It's just to see how you would be mapped as a user. So here you get the IP that is close to you based on the Akamai mapping. And in the Luna one, Luna one is useful for trying from different locations around the world. And the last one is not a command line tool, but it's a graphical tool. This one is very useful to, it's called, Charles proxy. So it's an HTTP debugging proxy server application. So it allows you to capture the session. So here, for an example, we capture the session of stream. We play the video. We get the HTTP request headers. And then we also get the HTTP response headers for the whole session. So if we click on a particular line, we get the request and the response. And as you can see here, we also use the Akamai Pragma headers. So we can then also collect the logs and everything to see the whole playback. So to sum up, yeah, sir?
The Charles proxy, do you set the Pragma headers yourself, or it comes with it?
Actually, the Pragma headers for this example were applied in the browser, not in the Charles proxy. So I use Chrome, for instance, for this one. And there is a Chrome extension called Akamai Pragma headers, and it applies the Pragma headers.
So how is this different from Fiddler then?
It is the same.
The same?
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's very similar. Let's say not the same, but similar. Yeah, it's also, as Vladimir said, this one, it has a trial license, but Fiddler is free. So this one might have a bit more additional options, but like the main purpose is to capture the session.
Yes, and in fact, we have a session tomorrow from 9:50 to 10:30 in this room, and in that we'll show you on how to use the Charles proxy with the mobile app testing as well. So in detail of Charles.
So to sum up all the tools that we've described, we made a few scenarios how to use the tools when just to give you an idea, and you probably have a bit more scenarios that you come across. So the first one is an unexpected behavior. So this is when we are testing. For instance, we enter a URL and there is no response. So the first thing would be to use dig either on your computer or on Luna to see if the hostname even resolves to any IP. And if it resolves to an IP, what IP if it's Akamai. So to see if you are actually using the property you just set up. So to see if the hostname is, as we call, Akamized. The second example is access denied, as they already described before, that you can, for instance, block users from different countries, depending either if you have a licensed content that can only showed in different countries. So here is an example that this site is limited only to the United States, but someone is requesting from India. So they would get as a response the reference number. We would use the translate error string to get the information about that certain request. But then we can also collect the logs, check if the IP of the user connecting from India is actually from India, just to confirm. And then we can also use the curl command. And sometimes, depends on the configuration, if it's set up, we can also allow, if we use the X forward at 4 with an IP from United States, we can also allow someone from outside the United States to actually access the content. Yep.
So is there any lag automatically we can trigger API so that it will start capturing the logs, and then it will be much easier to figure out which request has, because it might be intermittent where one issue, one request has passed, but other request has not. So
I'm not aware of any API in regard to this, but as Vladimir said, we have this log delivery service, so there you can also capture, when you can download the logs to see for the whole period of time that you collect the logs, and then troubleshoot based on that, or yeah.
Is there a delay between the time the event happens and the log will be available?
Yes, the logs take about 30 minutes to an hour to collect, and also depends on the setup of the delivery. You can set up that you have the logs delivered every hour or every 24 hours. So if you have 24 hours, you will get them with a bigger delay. The third example is, as I said before, just about the network conditions, where we would use the traceroute tool to see the drop packets or the higher latency from different locations. So we can distinguish if the issue is local or is it global around the world. And in the last example, it's more of a for more complex properties, where we want to know about a certain object, which CP code is used, what origin we're gonna get the content from, what's the caching time to leave setup. So you can use the translate and Akamai's URL. You get this information based on a specific URL, or you can use the Akamai Pragma headers as we discussed before. So what we've learned today is just how to test and troubleshoot using Luna tools, using third-party tools, testing availability, reliability, performance, and I think a very useful thing about Luna tools is that you can run them from different locations. And in the end, we just described different troubleshooting scenarios. And just a reminder that there is this question mark at the top of every tool. There you get very detailed description of different possibilities, different outputs.
Back up one slide.
Yeah, sure.
Welcome. There's a question.
Huh? Sorry.
Is there a tool that lets you see the requests sent to the origin? So you kind of use that, you see it in the browser or whatever tool you use to see those Akamai Pragma headers. Sometimes it's useful to see like setting up the geolocation header, or those other kinds of info that you send to the origin that the client response will see.
You mean the actual headers that you would see going to the origin? These are not logged, so you would have to log them on your side on the origin. We just you can, with LDS, so log delivery service, you can get the logs from client to the Akamai and from Akamai to the origin to see, but it's mostly HTTP response codes, the URL used and stuff like that, but it's not, we do not log the whole HTTP headers. So we would like to thank you for joining us today. Please provide us some feedback about the session. Also join us downstairs in the pavilion, partner pavilion, the experts bar, and continue the conversation in the community, available at community.akamai.com.
Yes.
And that's it. So now we already had a lot of questions, but if there are any more.
Yeah. Thank you. And I had to add a point so that, at the expert bar, if you need to know more about the troubleshooting tools, you can go and block some time for the topic number 2, right? And they can explain you more about these troubleshooting tools. All right, guys. Thank you.